Hello and welcome to Secrets Mystery Manor. I'm your host, Psychic Zelda Kelly. Warning: this podcast may contain sensitive material. It is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer and listening discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Secrets Mystery Manor. How are you? I'm sorry I missed last week. I wasn't really feeling well, but this week we've got kind of a really good story. So, yeah, I think you're going to love this one. So I want you to sit back and grab your teddy bear, get some popcorn, get your little glass of juice, your little glass of soda, your coffee, tea, or water. Get ready for this one. I've got my kitty Riley sitting in my lap, and I hope you're all cozy and comfy. Get your blanket, because we're about to get started. So years ago, I remember this story. There were two little girls, not very far apart in age, but they would go to visit their grandparents very often. Now, their grandparents loved them dearly, and they loved their grandparents. They were together with them all the time. Just the smells of Grandma's kitchen would just entice them to come to their house, and in the summertime, they would stay with their grandparents at least 10 days, 2 weeks. While their mother missed them, she understood that being with the grandparents was really good also, and it gave everybody a very welcomed break. So while with Grandma and Grandpa, they would do a lot of fun things. They would travel and sightsee. They would do all kinds of really fun things, things that they normally and ordinarily would not be able to do. Well, this one time they went to their grandparents' house. Now, this was a house that they lived in, I'm going to say in the interim. They didn't live in this house long because they were building a house closer to where the grandchildren's parents lived. And it was just in the next town, but it was still a beautiful little home. There was a fireplace and a den, and there were all kinds of wonderful little nooks and crannies in this house, and it was relatively new. But it was a great house, and Grandma had it all decorated for them, and especially their bedroom was in pink and in green. Now, it was beautiful. The bedspreads on the bed were this beautiful light pink, and then pink roses with green leaves and stems were in their room constantly. It was quite a sight. Just a beautiful, beautiful little relaxing room. Well, they would sit in the den and they would watch all kinds of those shows back in the day with their grandmother in the afternoon. You know, game shows. They would sit together and they would have books and read, and they would have a coloring book, or they would listen to a show, or they would color and draw, or they would be in the kitchen with Grandma while she was cooking dinner for when Grandpa was coming home from work. They usually ate pretty early in the late afternoon. I'm going to say probably early evening, because Grandpa had to get up early in the morning and then would go to work very early. And the two little girls would get up and they would have breakfast with their grandmother the next day. Well, this went on one summer, and they were really only at this house for one summer because they were building the home closer to the parents. The one little girl was 4, the other one was 6. And the 6-year-old had just started kindergarten, and it was so fun for her. And the little girl that was 4 was not jealous, but she wanted to do something like that too. She always felt left out as far as that was concerned. They were close enough in age, and they just were almost looking like twins many times. Their mother would dress them alike, and it was definitely something to really behold in pictures because they look so cute. One time there was a judge in the local town that was a friend of the family, looked at them and said they look like little ice cream cones. And I always just thought that was so cute. So this one summer, the girls were staying over at their grandparents' house, and they would get up in the morning and Grandma would fix them breakfast. They would have usually fried eggs, maybe a potato, maybe fried potato, usually either bacon or sausage, some toast, and they would really get a good breakfast. They didn't eat cereal much, so it was eggs and usually bacon or sausage and toast. So one of the little girls, the 6-year-old, she liked the yolk, and the 4-year-old liked the white part of the egg. So many times they would trade off, and they weren't really supposed to, but they would. And Grandma would let them get away with that. The basement door was close to the kitchen, and there was a side door that came from a carport that when you walked into the carport, you got out of the car and you opened the door and it went into the kitchen. The basement door was to the left. Now, the basement door usually was open, that went downstairs, but these 2 little girls never went downstairs. They were not supposed to. It was a basement. It was a finished basement, but it was for utility purposes only. So they never spent any time down there. The grandma did her laundry, and that was about it. Down in the basement. Grandpa had some tools down there, so they didn't spend a lot of time. So this one morning, the girls got up, and they just switched out the eggs that they liked, and they were sitting there talking to Grandma and laughing and having a good time. And all of a sudden, they heard walking in the basement. Grandma didn't know what to do. So she called Grandpa at work, and he came home right away. The grandma got the girls. They went in the bedroom, and she locked the door. And Grandpa came home. He went in the basement and came up, and he said, "There's no one there. There's no one in the basement." So the next day was Saturday. They all got up. They were eating their breakfast. They were planning on a day, and the girls didn't sleep very well that night because they were still a little worried about what they had heard in the basement. So they were tired and not really anxious or excited to be going out and doing anything early. Well, the grandparents were early risers, so they just didn't seem like they were excited. They were sitting at the counter in the kitchen, and all of a sudden, they heard someone in the basement walking. And this time, it sounded like someone who had high heels that was walking across the floor. Well, the grandpa got really upset. He went in the room, he grabbed a baseball bat, ran downstairs, and there was no one there. So he came back upstairs, and the girls noticed the looks that the grandparents were giving each other. And it was, to tell you the truth, kind of scary. Now, these 2 little girls knew what it was to be scared. And the little 4-year-old, especially, knew what it was like to be scared. She was scared quite often. She had had an experience with a doll not long before this time. And she remembered that very vividly. So hearing someone walking in the basement brought back horrible memories of who, or even maybe what, was walking in the basement. So this went on for quite some time. And then the next morning, which was Sunday morning, they all got up and were sitting around the counter and really didn't even think anything about it. The basement door was open, and all of a sudden, they heard walking in the basement. Well, it was frightening. And at this point, the two little girls were very, very frightened. They didn't know what was going on. And the little 4-year-old wanted to go home to be with her mother. And it was very sad and very frightening. So this actually went on, and it wasn't time for them to go home yet. And the grandmother called the mother and said, I don't know what's going on here, but the littlest one wants to come home. Well, the parents had some plans and it wasn't really convenient. And the grandmother said, that's all right, no worries. I'll make sure that tomorrow morning we have breakfast, and we'll have it in the other part of the kitchen where we usually have our main meals. And maybe they won't hear this noise. Well, it was definitely a concern. So the two little girls didn't sleep very well that night. And as time went on, they continued to hear it. And they got to the point where they were afraid to come out of the room. So at one point, the grandmother decided to not let this bother her and to just play it off as it was just nothing. So this last morning that they were there, they were having breakfast and laughing and talking, and they had basically forgotten about the noises in the basement. So the last morning they were having breakfast, the noise, the walk began. And we're going to take a moment right now, and we're going to break, and we're going to talk about psychic secrets. So we'll be right back after this very important message. Hi everyone, this is your friend Zelda Kelly, and I would like to take a minute to invite you to stop over to Psychic Secrets. That's www.psychicsecrets.com. There you can find an advisor that can help you with advice, direction, and guidance that you need. And also you can read our blog, which has a lot of really, really good little articles and information and can actually answer some questions for you. You can find us here on this same site, this Secrets Mystery Manor. We are there. So you're there already if you found us. But we also have another section, which is the Secrets Laws of Attraction. We have some wonderful videos up, and we would love to have you stop by and take a look at that. Now, I want you to know that Secrets really is here for helping the person. We have qualified, experienced advisors on call 24/7. We have the ability to chat. We have the ability to take a call, and actually even a video call if you feel so inclined. So stop on by to psychicsecrets.com. That's www.psychicsecrets, that's 2 S's in the middle now, psychicsecrets.com, and take advantage of our first-time offer. For those of you who have never called before, first-time customer, we have an offering of 30 minutes for $30. You know, we can get a lot accomplished in 30 minutes. I'm so glad that you stopped by today to listen to Secrets Mystery Manor. And I hope you take the invitation to come on over and check out our advisors. We're here for you. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you soon, and you'll see me on there. I'm extension 11. So back to our podcast. Bye for now. Hello, and we're back, and thank you so much for that message from Psychic Secrets. We really appreciate that very much. So now we're back to the story. Now, the two little girls and the grandmother who were home alone, and this was not an isolated home. It was in a neighborhood, and definitely you could see if someone was coming in and out of the home. The grandparents didn't have any other person living there with them. It couldn't have been anyone else. But this one particular morning, they were having their breakfast, and the walking started. And you could hear the walking. And the little girls were so frightened, and they started to cry. And grandmother didn't know what to do. So she went over to the basement door, and she looked down the basement steps, and she said, "Hello?" The walking stopped, and the grandmother said, "Hello?" And the walking started, and you could hear the walking got louder and louder. So my grandmother said, "Hello, who are you? Hello?" And just then, a woman's voice in the basement said, "Hello?" My goodness, that would have been so frightening. The little girls at this point were uncontrollable with fear. They couldn't scream. They sat in their stools and their chairs at the kitchen counter and could not believe what they had heard. The grandmother stood at the top of the steps and said, "I don't know who you are, but that doesn't matter. This is my home, and I'm ordering you to leave it right now, immediately, right now." And from that point, you heard the walking walk away from the basement steps, and the grandmother closed the basement door and locked it. At that point, it was very close to the two little girls going home, so they were happy and relieved. And from what I understand, the basement door remained locked and closed unless laundry needed to be done or something else in that manner. But I will tell you that I do know that that was a very, very frightening time, because those two little girls were my sister and I was the 4-year-old. And that was as clear as if it happened today. Hearing a voice coming out of a basement, out of a relatively new home, and respond to my grandmother was frightening, chilling, and all of us, my grandmother, my sister, and I, heard it. Well, it wasn't too much longer that my grandparents moved from that house, and they never looked back. Sometimes when I go back home to Ohio, I will drive by their house and take a look at it, and I think, what a sweet little home. But we never could understand, we never could explain or decipher who was walking in the basement in high heels. So the next time you hear a noise coming from the basement, and it may sound like it's someone walking, just make sure you close the door and you lock it. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Secrets Mystery Manor. I'll tell you, I had chills when I was telling you that story. That is a story that I don't really tell a lot. It was scary and it was frightening. And now it is exhilarating just thinking about it. I have chills, like I said. This is really something else. But I appreciate you, and I appreciate you listening. And don't be too scared, okay? You can overcome. I know you can. Thank you so much for listening to Secrets Mystery Manor. I'm your host, Zelda Kelly, and I'll be back again next week with another edition. And I'll see you very soon. Bye for now. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. I just love this, don't you?